today are actually going to be learning about a place in Indiana that's very near and dear to our state's history. You're going to be finding out facts and opinions about this location, and I'm going to send you on a virtual field trip to a museum inside of your breakout rooms to investigate this place. So before I do that, let's go ahead and get some background knowledge about the type of place that I am talking about. So today we are going to see how authors use facts and opinions to support their viewpoint. And someone has a viewpoint of a place called the Levi Coffin House, and we're going to see what their views are. Make sure I've shared our sound here. So I want you to remember that we are working on the goal of distinguishing between fact and opinion and explaining how an author uses reasons and facts to support specific points in a text. Today, we're going to focus on how an author uses facts and opinions. So when we read the text that someone else has written, what are they trying to communicate to us? This is an example of an author using facts and opinions to support their viewpoint. I'd like for you to observe this.
Authors use facts and opinions in their writing. Here is a text about suburban communities. Let's take a look at how this author uses facts to support her point. Suburbs are good communities for growing families. Tom and Kate's family lived in a suburb to have plenty of space. They had a big yard to play in. Tom and Kate each had his or her own bedroom. Their parents worked in the city nearby. They commuted each day to get to their jobs. What facts do you see in this text?
Alrighty, what facts did we see in this text? And remember, facts are things that can be proven, and facts are things that can be observed, so we can see evidence of it in our world. What facts do you see inside of this text? Does anyone see a fact? Alejandro?
That Tom and Kate's family lived in a suburban.
Yeah, they live in a suburb. That's a kind of a neighborhood environment that we've talked about. And we could go there. We could see evidence that there are houses that have some space. There's not a lot of farmland. There's not a lot of tall buildings. So it must be a suburb. Great. Another fact that we see. What other facts do we see here? Terrence, I think you were about to say one, right?
That they said they had a big backyard for them the kids to play in, and they had they had their own beds and room.
Yeah, them having their own bedroom is a fact. We could walk into the house, we could see this is Kate's bedroom. This is Tom's bedroom. We could also say the fact that they have a yard is a fact. The word big is going to make it an opinion. If we say it's a big yard, that's an opinion, because someone else who owns a farm might say, that's a small yard, right? But the fact that they have a yard is a fact. Great.
What facts does the author mention about suburban communities? I noticed that the author says the family had a yard to play in. I noticed the author said Tom and Kate each had his or her own bedroom. I also noticed the author mentions how the parents worked in the city nearby. This author is describing why the suburban community is a good community for this family. They have a yard. The kids have enough space by having their own bedrooms. And the parents' jobs are close by in the city. This author supports the point that suburban communities are good communities for families by listing these facts.
So remember, this is the author's opinion that suburbs are good communities. Good is that opinion word. A farmer might feel that a rural community is good for their family, but this author thinks that suburbs are good. These are the reasons that the author gave to prove that.
Today, you will look at a text and you will describe how the author uses facts to support his or her point.
This is the Levi Coffin House, and this is the place that I'm going to send you on a field trip to because we're going to take a look at a text today that an author has written about the Levi Coffin House.
We are going to read a text about the Levi Coffin House, which is located in our community in Indianapolis. Check out this video.
Okay, I'm going to be pushing out a link to you guys, and this link is going to give you some background information on the Levi Coffin House. I'm going to ask that you go to this link inside of your breakout room, and I want you to discover why this is an important place in Indiana. I'm not going to tell you why. I want to see if you can find it. Why is this an important place in Indiana? So I am curious about what you discovered about the Levi Coffin House. Why is the Levi Coffin House important? Why is this an important place? Terrence?
Because it's big and because it's part of the American.
It's part of our history. Yes. Why more is this important? Why is it important in history? What do we find out? Alejandro?
It's important because it was a home of thousand freedom seekers that were trying to go to Canada.
Yes, so it helped more than 1,000 freedom seekers on their way to Canada. Now, freedom seekers were people in the 1800s who were in slavery. So this is a house that was used to help people escape slavery. So many of you have heard of the Underground Railroad. The Levi Coffin House was called the Grand Central Station. That's like a really busy train station in New York, of the Underground Railroad. Right here in Indiana is the house that helped over 1,000 slaves get to freedom. So helped people escape. The Coffins were a Quaker family, that's a religion, and they helped many people escape. They worked to provide transportation, shelter, food, and clothing to more than 1,000 freedom seekers. Many people have said throughout history that every single person who went through the Levi Coffin House made it safely out of slavery. So this was a very important house because it was used by people to help end slavery and to help people escape to have a better life. And it's right here in Indiana, which is pretty awesome. So this Levi Coffin House is a very important part of our history, and we're lucky that we get to observe it in Indiana and that we had people in Indiana who were working to end this terrible system of slavery, okay? So we're gonna read a text today, and I am gonna warn you, we're gonna go a bit over our time because of that fire drill, but you'll still get your break, okay? We're going to read a text today about the Levi Coffin House. And as we're reading, we are going to find information that supports the fact that this is an important part of America's history.
The author says the Levi Coffin House is an important part of America's past. That is the author's opinion. What facts does the author use to support her opinion?
All right, we're going to do this together. So right now, I'd like for you to go into your activities on Seesaw, and there's an assignment that has been released to you, how authors use facts to support an opinion. You're going to click on Add Response, and you're going to want to split your screen. So make it smaller so that you can see Zoom and so that you can see your work at the same time. So make them small so that they're right next to each other, okay? So I'm going to leave mine large so you can see it, but we're going to add a response, and we're going to do exactly what Mrs. Renolay just asked us to do inside of the directions. It asked us to read the text and highlight facts that support that it is a important part of American history. I'm receiving some questions about how do you split your screen. Let me share with you. You can split your screen by clicking in the top where there is two squares inside of each other. That will make your screen smaller, like this. If you want to make your screen larger, you're going to click the one square. So I'm going to make my screen smaller. Then I can use the arrows to drag how large or how small I want it to be. Okay, so split your screen. And then let's say I wanted to see my Zoom. I can take my Zoom video and I can put it over here and make it smaller so that I can see my work and my Zoom right next to each other. That way you can see my screen and you can see your work at the same time. Okay, so that's how you make that smaller, is by clicking on those two squares that are up here next to the X. Okay? All right, so I'm going to read this text, and as I'm reading, you are going to use your highlighter tool to highlight facts that support it is an important part of America's past. So what proves that it is an important part of America's past? Okay? I'm going to have you highlighting, and then at the end, I'm going to ask what information you highlighted. So be ready to share. So get your highlighting fingers ready. The Levi Coffin House. On a street in what is now Fountain City, Indiana, there is a red brick house. The house is old and simple, but it is an important part of America's past. The Levi Coffin House. It was the main stop along the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was a network that helped enslaved people of African descent to escape to freedom in the 1800s. The network was called underground because it was secret. It had stations or safe places where escapees could hide. As people passed from one station to another, they were given shelter and aid. Levi Coffin was an important part of this network. Although he knew it was illegal, Coffin began helping escapees in 1826. He would pay little heed to the dangers. He opposed slavery. Opposed is a word that means against. So his opinion was that slavery was bad. He opposed slavery, so he'd take many risks for his beliefs. Go ahead and make sure you have highlighted at least one important fact that proves the Levi Coffin House was important on this first page. Find at least one sentence that proves the Levi Coffin House was an important part of America's history. We will read the second page together next. Brayden, I see your hand up.
Something happened with the paper. It got like really small, and I don't know what happened. It just got really small.
On your seesaw?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and click the X up here and click on delete. And then if you start a new one, it'll be large and the right size again.
Okay.
Okay. So right now you're making sure you have at least one highlighted sentence from this text that proves it is an important part of America's past. I'm curious about what you chose. What did you choose from this first page that proves the Levi Coffin House was important to America's past? Vinny?
I put the highlighter. One of the words that I put on the highlighter was how the slaves escaped in the 1800s with the station of the Underground Railroad.
Nice. So that there were stations or safe places where escapees could hide. Yes, the Levi Coffin House was one of those places. Even though it was illegal, it was against the law to help people escape slavery. Levi Coffin said, I'm going to do it anyway. And he created his house as one of those safe places for people escaping slavery. Awesome. What else? What did someone else find as an important fact that proves the Levi Coffin House was an important part of America's past? What sentence did you highlight?
We're going to talk about both of your records.
Alejandro?
I highlighted that the Underground Railroad was a network that helped enslaved people from African descent to escape to freedom in 1800s.
Yeah, and the Levi Coffin House was a part of that Underground Railroad. It was a part of that network, that system that was a safe place for people escaping slavery. Excellent. Awesome. What more? What more did you highlight, Levin?
He would take many risks for his beliefs.
Yeah. So he took many risks for his belief. So he knew what he was doing was illegal, but he still said it's worth it. I'm willing to put my life in danger if it means many more people get to live a better life. He stood up for what was right. Awesome. Okay, there are many more in here. I can see how it says that Coffin began helping escapees in 1826. So he helped inside of that house. And there are others as well. You do not need to have all of these. The directions asked you to find 3. So as long as you have 3, You're good. Let's read the second page. I'm going to read the second page, and same thing. Use your highlighter tool to highlight one or two facts that you think are important that prove this is a great, important part of America's history. Okay? In 1839, Coffin and his wife moved to the red brick house. The house was perfect for their needs. It had 8 rooms, many with 2 exits. It had storage places where people could hide, and a big attic too. Coffin's neighbors would sew new clothes for the escapees to wear. The escapees ate and slept in safety. Then, after days or weeks, they moved on. It is said that everyone who hid in the Levi Coffin's house made it to freedom. Today, the Levi Coffin House is a National Historic Landmark. Go ahead and highlight one or two facts that support the author's opinion that this is an important part of America's past on this section. I'm curious about what you highlighted. What did you find was an important supportive fact on this page? What supported the author's opinion that this is an important part of America's past? Steve, did you find one?
Yes.
What did you find?
In 1988, Coffin and his wife moved to the red brick house. The house was perfect for their needs. It had 8 rooms with 2 exits, had storage places where people could hide, and a big attic.
Now hold on. Which one is the most important, do you think? Because that's the whole paragraph. What's one piece that you think is really important?
Oh, I just highlighted into the safety part because I thought all of that was important.
Oh, okay. So that it got them all to safety. Good. I think for me specifically, the fact that it had 8 rooms with 2 exits and storage where people could hide in a big attic. If you're going to help people inside of your house, you better have space for them to stay, right? So it makes sense to me that this is a large place. And that does, as you said, Steve, help them get to safety. Excellent. What more did we find from this page of the text about why this is an important part of America's past? Why is this an important part of America's past? Aiden G., did you find a statement about why this is an important part of America's past? What statement did you find?
I found that I'm trying to move the Zoom so I can see it. So my statement says, it is said that everyone who hid in Levi Coffin's house made it to freedom.
Yeah.
Today, the Levi Coffin House is a National Historic Landmark.
Yeah. Do you think we would know about this house if it was not successful in helping people?
No.
No, right? Do you think we would make this a National Historic Landmark, which means like a museum? Would this place be a museum if it wasn't important? No. So these do support the author's opinion that it is an important part of America's past. Excellent. I want to reiterate that you do not have to have the exact same facts highlighted that I do. It is okay if you have different facts highlighted. It is also okay if you have less facts highlighted. The directions ask you to make sure that you have 3. So as long as you have 3 highlighted, you have met the expectation of the assignment. You are getting ready to do directions 4 and 5 on your own. Direction 4 says, use the label tool to record 3 facts on the recording sheet. Record yourself with the microphone explaining how the facts support the author's opinion. Don't forget this step. Yesterday, you were asked to record yourself, and a lot of you turned in work without doing that. So please don't forget this. So you're going to take this information, and on slide 3, you're going to type the facts by 1, 2, and 3. Then you are going to record yourself explaining how the facts support this opinion. The Levi Coffin House is an important part of America's past. How do the facts that you chose prove that it is important?